All right. Well, you good? You all good? Thank you all for coming. Appreciate you coming out. This is another in a series of meetings regarding home rule and the possibility for it. My name is Kent Brown. I'm the town administrator with the town of Milliken. Mayor Woodcock is here, as well as Leron Ehrlich and Linda Meisner, and I appreciate them being here. But what we have tonight is a couple special guests that will come and present a little bit about their experience with home rule. We have, and what we're doing also tonight is we're having this presented on Facebook Live, so if you have any questions, don't hesitate to put in a question or two. If you have been unable to make it to the meeting, don't hesitate to come. But we will post this video afterwards on the town's website so that people can see it as well. But tonight we have a couple special guests. We have Raymond Patch, who's the mayor for the town of Hudson, and also Joe Racine, the town manager with the town of Hudson. I really appreciate them willing to come here and say a little bit about their experience. Hudson completed their journey in moving to a home rule for their town in 2015. And as I was talking with Mayor Patch beforehand, they said they did a couple different attempts before being successful moving to home rule, and they've had some good experiences with it. So, what I'd like to ask the Mayor Patch from Hudson to come up and speak for a few moments and describe the experiences that he has seen with Hudson moving this home rule. So, Ray?
Thank you, Ken.
Appreciate it.
Well, thanks everybody for inviting us up to talk about home rule. The format of this meeting, I think questions would be more appropriate. We don't know what you want to glean from this little meeting. We went through the exercise, had 9 commission members. Takes a lot of legwork. You need to tell the citizens of the community why you're going there and what's in it for them, really. We did it for one reason, and I mean various reasons, but the one reason that I did it was to make sure that the town of Hudson had control over things that pertain to the town of Hudson only. In other words, we don't have to go by what Denver Boulder has to say. Milliken and Hudson could disagree on everything else except they don't want anybody telling them how to run their town. And that's exactly what home rule allows you to do if you write the right charter and get the right personnel in there. It was a good experience. You have to go to election to get your commission members, have your commission members talk it up. We were fortunate to have a very talented individual that wordsmithed the entire home rule charter, word by word. So it helped us to understand, number one, what it said, why it said it, and the effect later on. Misconceptions about home rule is that you can do a lot of things that you don't have to do. You don't have to adhere to the tables. That's wrong. You still have to adhere to all the statutory things that affect the entire state of Colorado and in the town of Milliken. We did it. I did it. Another reason was we published all of our ordinances full length in the legal newspaper. We come up with a franchise this year. It costs about $25,000 to run that for 14 days. That got my dander up. You can do it in the home rule charter to say header only. It costs a lot less money. So there, just some benefit from there. The town manager will tell you a lot more about it, but question and answer which way you want to go. If you have questions, go ahead.
How do you encourage citizens to participate in the process?
Well, I went out door to door and telephone to telephone talking to get commission members. We had the minimum 9, but we put some of the council members on there. I was on it, and one council member. We got the local coffee drinkers that meet every morning and talk about everything from the price of rice to where oil's at and what's happening in Hudson. We enlisted their help, and they sure spread the word. It was voted a 2-1, I believe, wasn't it, Joe, that to go to home rule. So just that, we had open meetings. Everyone to come in and ask. There was a lot of misconception, but we told them what it was for, why we did it.
What additional things did you do during the commission meetings, or during that 6-month period when you created the charter? What additional things did you do to communicate your progress to the public?
I think I'll let Joe answer that question. I don't really know what else. We met only 4 times, I believe.
I think it was one more than that, it was more like 6 or something.
6 or 7 times, but it wasn't very much. We just met and opened to the public. You didn't have a lot of public come in. You got a lot of phone calls, or the people on the commission they got questions.
Sure.
You know, there was a misconception there was a HOA. It's not an HOA, you know. You can't change the charter without the vote of the people. So you can't get a rogue council in here and say, hey, we don't like that, we're gonna make them all paint their houses brown. You can't do that. So there's a lot of good things. Any other questions?
Can you already see the benefits from going from statutory to home rule?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
See benefits going, not that you guys have done it, you went through the process. Are the benefits obvious from from going from statutory to home rule?
Yeah, the benefits to me are obvious as far as how we govern the town now by the charter. It's not so muted in a big, thick manual that you gotta go look and read every time. It's in, 14 pages or something like that. But benefits on monetary savings is there. Again, I'll let Joe come up and answer some of them questions too. As the administrator, he does a day-to-day operation. So, Joe, if you'd like to come up and take over, I'm done.
I should hide this, I suppose, I want to take care of it. Thanks for inviting us out. It's interesting and often misunderstood concept. Home rule is a step away from state government, you might say, in some ways. Statutory towns are governed strictly by statutes that are crafted by people in the state legislature who are from all over the state and who may or may not have any familiarity with the communities, the individual needs of the individual communities that are governed by these statutes. There was a question about what do we do that was special at our charter commission meetings, and I think the most special thing was that we had food at the meetings, so they tended to show up and work on them. The charter is, in some ways, a constitution of your community. It's crafted by the people in town. It's a statement of fundamental governance and how the people in the community want their community governed. So it isn't a cookie cutter, one-size-fits-all statute that applies all over the state. It's something which is fine-tuned and crafted to meet your own needs. A home rule charter is a limiting document. If your charter said we're home rule and nothing more, then anything that is not a matter of statewide concern could be dealt with on the spot and decisions made by the elected officials at the moment in whatever ordinance or whatever action is taking place. So everything you put in your charter that structures that local town government, it's a limiting thing because it is saying that this is the way it's going to be. It isn't something that's fluid, that can change from day to day with changing members of the council or board or whatever. So it's important that you be very careful and very thoughtful about what goes into your charter. The danger of getting into this is that if you have people that are on the commission or who are influential, who have axes to grind, or who want to put goofy things in the charter, you could put the rules of backgammon in your charter if you wanted to. Wouldn't make any sense to do so, but if people voted for that, that's what you'd end up with in your charter. So it's important that the people on the commission be led, if you will, or that they be very focused on good government, and maybe even spend some time with the charter on the side and just talk about the community as a whole and talk about what does it mean to have good government in this community. And then go from there and back into what can we say in the charter that will help us accomplish that, and we'll set a template that will be consistent over time. What home rule is not, or what a charter is not, it is not a way to get around the law that applies statewide. It is not a way to get around the Constitution. The rumor mill in small towns will be running rampant during the home rule charter drafting or during the process. People will be assuming, as the mayor said, that you can raise taxes without a vote. You can get around the state constitution if you're home rule. That is not true. The state constitution applies regardless. Matters of statewide concern. We had an issue with the school district recently. School districts, as you know, are exempt from local land use regulations and building codes and so on. That is a matter of statewide concern. Being home rule does not give you the ability to do something that is other than is in the statutes on that regard. And there's a long list of things that are matters of statewide concern or have been determined to be so in the courts or in the legislature. So it's important that people understand that. We did, as the mayor said, because the word home is in home rule, people were on the street saying, well, this is going to give the town more power to regulate our lives like a homeowners association, and they'll be even more intrusive looking over our backyard fences and telling us what color to paint our houses and so on. Not true. It is not a homeowners association. So it's important to have rumor control and to be quick about the way you respond to things, that if any member of the Charter Commission or staff or town board hear a rumor on the street, it's important to get correct information out. We used our newsletter for that. I think it was quite effective. I can give you a few examples. Somebody said, you know, what can you do that you couldn't do otherwise? The big things are the little things. The ability to specify in your charter when an ordinance becomes effective. By statute, it's 30 days after publication. As a home rule community, we put in our ordinances, right in the text of the ordinance, when the ordinance becomes effective. So if we're in more of a hurry, if it's an imperative to have an ordinance go into effect sooner rather than later, we can put in the ordinance that it becomes effective 10 days after publication or whatever. We have that in the charter. We had sale of town property. If property is not surplus, but the town sees a public benefit in disposing of a piece of real estate for a business or whatever, by statute, you have to go to an election to sell a piece of town property that is not surplus. In your charter, you can specify the ability, or if you're home rule, you can sell real estate by action of the town board or the town council. And you can call yourself what you want. our town board is now the town council. So they're a lot more important now than they used to be. Advertising of ordinances, we had an ordinance approving the United Power franchise. It was a 17,000-word ordinance. And by statute, a franchise ordinance has to be published in its entirety for 14 consecutive days. We use the Greeley Tribune for our legal publication. It was a $21,000 legal ad. And I guarantee you, I'd be willing to bet a steak dinner with anybody that nobody read that legal ad that was published 14 consecutive days and cost $21,000. In our charter, we can publish by title only with a statement that the ordinance is available for public inspection at Town Hall. So anybody that wants to read 17,000 words or whatever it is has easy access to that information, but it doesn't require it to be published in the newspaper in its entirety. Statute regarding disconnection. If you want to de-annex a piece of property or something, it's a lot easier if you're home rule. Membership and structure of boards and commissions is specified in statute. Board of Adjustments, or Planning Commission, those kinds of things. Why does it take state law to tell you in your community how your boards and commissions are structured? If you have a charter, you can put it in your charter how you want it done for your community. So again, you know, a lot of these things aren't real exciting to talk about for the average person, but they're what makes the world go round in local government. And being home rule gives you that ability. I like our charter a lot. We've had a lot of good compliments on it. I think it's very well written, thanks to the thoughtful way that the commission put it together. We had very good legal counsel who was very strong and understood home rule very well. And we went through a process, and we didn't leave a sentence in that charter without everybody on the commission nodding their heads, saying that says exactly what we wanted to say, and understanding why they wanted it to say that in the interest of good government. And then we'd move on to the next one. We actually made it through the entire thing. I don't think the process of the Charter Commission meetings took more than 2 to 3 months.
Yeah, it wasn't very long.
And they were very focused, came to the meetings, worked very hard. When they started to get a little out of focus, as you all know from being in long meetings sometimes, we'd say, okay, we've gone far enough for tonight. We'll have our next meeting in a week. And they did an incredible job on it. And so we're very, very happy with it. And having a charter to start with, whether you use Hudson or some other community, is a good place to start. You don't want to start with a blank slate, because then you can be all over the map with it. So I'd really recommend, if you do proceed with this, that you look at some charters, find one that you think is pretty close to what you want, and then use it as a template. I would never recommend adopting anything in its entirety. Yeah.
Is there anything in your charter that you wish you hadn't put in, or you worded differently?
So far, there's only one thing. We have a town marshal, and we spelled marshal wrong with 2 L's. That's in the charter, so we can't change it, I guess. I'm being flipped. We have not run into anything yet, no.
The transition, not for the town, but more so for town hall employees, the town clerk and all that. Was that a different, an easy transition to roll into it, or was there any, problems doing that, going from statutory to a home rule, or?
I think it was very transparent. It was just
Yeah.
same day-to-day operation, just
Yeah.
governed by a different rule.
Yeah. And the thing it did too is, and again, this is the way we did it, doesn't mean it's the way you necessarily want to do it. But we talked a lot early in the process with the commission, when we were talking about what's good government, about division of responsibilities and how organizations work and the need to have clear delineation of responsibilities. By charter, our council can't be out telling a snowplow driver, come and do my street first. That, you know, the town manager is the person in charge of the administrative. The council is the legislative body, it's the policy-making body. The staff, through the manager, is the administrative. And that's very clear in the charter. And it's something, you know, you do run in from time to time to people who don't understand that. You know, it's like, I know more than staff how things should be done, and I'm gonna go try to impose myself, you know. If you don't like what the staff's doing, you get rid of the staff and bring in new staff people. That's the way it's supposed to work. But, again, I think it just clarifies it for everybody, and it's something to point to. Say, this was adopted by the people in this community, and this is the way our government is structured. And it's a good touchstone, if you will, for running your day-to-day operations. Yes?
I have a question from one of our live viewers. Her name is Amanda Proctor, and she's asking, can you talk about the process to amend your charter?
To amend a charter is an election. It's the same process. Basically, well, you don't have a commission necessarily, I don't think. We haven't run into that, but
No,
I think it would be,
I think the council
Yeah.
just has to say we want to amend the charter to read this, and it goes before a vote.
yeah. I believe the process would be similar to an initiated ordinance where it would go to an election.
Could you put into your charter how you're going to, the process to amend your charter?
I don't know. That's a good question. That's a legal question. I apologize for not having an answer on it, but, yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
I will try to get an answer on that.
I have a question of my own. What was your reasoning from going from statute to home rule? A lot of the people that I've talked to in different, like HOA meetings, my neighbors, people I've run into, they're like, well, why? What's the
Yeah.
point? We're such a small town. So Hudson is a rather small town as well. So why did you guys decide to go to home rule?
Why we decided to go to home rule, the mayor decided he wanted to go to home rule. And the mayor took the lead and led the charge, if you will, on it. You know, we sit at meetings and so often a question comes up and our attorney has to reach over and grab a statute book and thumb through hundreds of pages and come up with an answer of something that is in state law telling us how to run the business. And you get to the point and you see stupid things like having to advertise a 17,000 word ordinance 14 times. You run into these things over and over again, and it gets to the point where, you know, if the answer repeatedly is, if we were home rule, we could do it differently, but we're not, we have to do it this way. And I don't think there was any clear single issue that came up. There are some communities that want to collect their own sales tax. That is something that would require being home rule. Most of the time, those are communities that are in a metro area where they're butted up against other communities, and sales tax is mistakenly being distributed to the wrong community. And they feel by having their own tax collection, they have more control of collecting all the money that's due them from within their boundaries. We don't personally, we're not big enough, and we're more of a freestanding community, kind of like Milliken, that, you know, we don't have spillover of our taxes to outside entities. So again, I don't know why Milliken would want to do home rule, but those are the kind of things that were on our mind that brought it about.
What big is Hudson?
Hudson right now is pushing 1,700 people. And this is the first year in a long time we've got any significant amount of residential development. So it's kind of creeping up I-76, and it's coming our way, so. And that's another thing maybe that, just the context of the community as being a community that's in the oil patch, has a lot of growth pressure. We've had a significant amount of commercial development. You know, we see changes taking place, and what better way to manage change in your community than to have greater local control over how decisions are made that would affect the way the community grows. So again, that's kind of a obtuse answer, but in the great scheme of things, I think that was maybe on people's minds as well. If we were a stagnant community, there probably would have been less interest in home rule. There would have been less need to do it. Yes.
Another live question from Josh Roseberry. He asked, is there an economic benefit to being home rule? If so, would it be better for businesses and commerce within the town?
Well, one thing is just on the implementation of ordinances and so on, the ability to do things more quickly, I think is important, often important in businesses. And the sales tax, you know, if a business is collecting sales tax, being sure that that is remitted to the community in which you live or in which your business is located, I think would be beneficial. There probably could be things put in the charter which are more directly related to the time for processing things, you know, that if a development application isn't approved in a certain number of days, that it's considered approved. I suppose you could do things like that in there if you wanted to, but then again, I certainly wouldn't advise it, but I don't know if that answers the question or not.
I have another question from Marie. She's asking, what does Tabor look like at a local level? And I don't know if that's an appropriate question for here.
That's,
What does Tabor look like? Like the same it does at the state level.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Tabor,
it's,
Yeah.
Tabor.
yeah,
Yeah,
Tabor's
it's-
Tabor. It doesn't, you
It's the taxpayer's bill of rights,
Yeah.
and it's a certain set of rules that you have to follow.
yeah, it's 1,800 words or so of administrative minutia. Buried in there is you can't raise taxes without a popular vote. There are also restrictions on the way that your water and sewer enterprises are funded and so on. It gets into a lot of
that's the kind of.
very limiting things on that.
We have another live question. It says, being home rule, have you seen your legal fees decrease or have they increased due to oversight in the initial charter drafting process?
The charter process, we had a cost estimate on that. What was it, $12,000?
Yes.
Yeah, we looked at the legal fees and the cost of the election and so on, and it was about $12,000 to actually, for Hudson, to go through the process and get the charter adopted. I don't think that included the food at the meetings.
That was a one-time expense.
Do you
Yeah,
know what the expense of 12,000?
Yeah, so the order of magnitude, that's probably about what you'd be getting into, but the question was more,
Basically, as a town, have your legal fees increased or decreased since writing the charter? That's my understanding of
I have not noticed that at all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not gonna change, home rule's not gonna change the legal, the litigation and all that stuff will change the legal,
Okay.
so.
No, thank you.
that is very cool, by the way. We have to learn how to do that.
Well, I can show you.
What other questions you have?
I have a question. I've been talking to my neighbors and they're very concerned that we're gonna turn into Johnstown and taxes and this, that, and the other. So are there words of reassuring that you can share since you've been through the process that are like, no, it's not just a tax-based charter, it's a town improvement, so to speak, or
Yeah.
how you wanna look at it?
Well, I think the answer is if Milliken wants to turn into Johnstown, you can do that without home rule. I mean, they're independent things. If anything, it gives you,
Taxes go back to Tabor.
Yeah.
Right.
The
Well,
people have-
like Lincoln closing new taxes, one of the things that Johnstown did, that's used as a common example, is that they created a lodging tax. And someone's like, we don't want a bunch of hotels. It's like, well, you can put that into your charter. So,
well, you can adopt a lodging tax if you're home rule. But again, it requires a vote of the people.
Yeah.
So if Milliken turns into Johnstown, largely it would be because the people voted to turn it into Johnstown. So it does not take away from people their rights to vote on tax increases, including lodging taxes. So if anything, it gives you more power to make Milliken Milliken. Any other questions? Okay.
Joe, it's right behind you.
I guess, everybody's getting development up in Wazoo. You guys just said that you guys are now just starting to get some development that you haven't had in a long time. Do you think because you switched to home rule that might have been the deciding factor to bring
No.
in some more
No,
development?
not at all.
No, I think it's just the market. See,
Yeah.
Brighton is up the road from us toward Denver, and Brighton is like a sponge. And it was the growth coming up I-76, went through Commerce City, went through Brighton, and it's now leapfrogging out. And the housing market is so hot right now, it's contributing to that. But we had done quite well with commercial development prior to that, so.
Would
Good.
you care if on the video, we put your guys' town emails in case there is anyone?
No, that's fine, sure.
In case anyone had any questions at the end.
Oh,
And,
absolutely.
And I don't think this video won't go on Facebook or YouTube for what, 2 days, usually a day?
A day.
Do a slide on Facebook.
Right, well, if they watch the one on there too, this way it's on the end of it. they
Yeah.
can have-
Yeah, my email's really hard, it's mayor@HudsonColorado.org, so. I'll get it. So, yeah, definitely, if they got a question they wanna ask us, we've got to. Again, we can't speak for what Milliken wants to do, we only speak what we did. And that's all, you know.
You folks have our charter, I believe.
Yes.
Was anything in there you wanted to ask us about? I just think it's really important, before you get into the nitty-gritty of the wordsmithing of charter, to spend time just talking about governance.
Yeah. What do you wanna do, what do you wanna accomplish? And the commission members, if you can enlist the movers and shakers of the community, that's who you need to get a hold of. Okay?
Well, and Hudson's charter looks like a fairly straightforward document, so, you know, it's a pretty standard example compared to several other charters I've seen, so. It's straightforward, it's probably like the people in Hudson, straightforward and direct, so.
They are direct sometimes.
Well, I appreciate the comments, and especially appreciate Joe Racine and Ray Patch for coming and speaking a little bit about their experiences in Hudson, about home rule in general. And this is just one more step as far as the giving information to the public regarding home rule. We appreciate the people that participated on Facebook Live, and we look forward to the next little bit of information that we may put out. Look forward the next meeting in about a month or another several weeks, and we'll have another general information meeting. So appreciate the interest and have a good night.
It's-